What is a hydroponic farm? You might have heard about these things that can grow crops using complex nutrients and expensive, very complicated materials. On the surface, these farms seem more like complicated machines you hear about that you could never actually make yourself. Most people don't have the time or money to invest in such a project, but those who do have the ability to make their own hydroponic farm should. The nutrient film technique is one of the simplest conceptual types of hydroponic farms that exist. These types of hydroponic farms are unique because the nutrient solution is constantly flowing through each section of the farm. There are three sections of an NFT farm: the reservoir, the piping, and the growing bed. The reservoir houses the nutrients that all hydroponic farms utilize in order to provide nutrients that would normally be in the soil, as well as water that the plants need to grow. In the reservoir is a pump that pushes the water into the piping system of the farm. The piping system directs the nutrient solution from the reservoir to the grow beds, and then from the grow beds to the reservoir. The grow beds house the plants that are actually being grown. Plants are placed in a growing medium, commonly found to be rock wool, and then placed into pot nets that allow the plant's roots to absorb nutrients from the nutrient solution. Above the grow beds are also light sources that provide light energy for the plant system to grow. Every type of hydroponic farm has some kind of light system. A wicking system is built very similarly to an NFT system. The key difference is in the grow bed. Instead of plants being placed low enough for their roots to grow out and absorb nutrients from the flowing water, they are instead placed in an enclosed pot that has a wick to absorb the nutrients and act as a plant's roots. The wick utilizes the adhesive and cohesive properties of water that roots use to move the nutrients up into the enclosed pot that the plant rests in. Once the nutrient solution enters the pot, the plant's roots can then absorb the nutrients from the consistent flow of solution from the wick. The benefit of the wick system is that when the motor turns off, either due to an unforeseen problem or for maintenance, the wick will still supply water to the plant for some time. The only problem, or downside with these farms, is when they start up, it will take time for the wicks to fully absorb the water and send the solution to the roots. The deep water culture, or DWC for short, is the simplest hydroponic farm to construct. However, it requires a heavy amount of maintenance. The farm consists only of the reservoir and growing bed, sitting directly above it. There is not a piping system. Since the growing bed grows directly into the reservoir, an oxygen pump is needed to pump oxygen into the water for the roots to absorb. Normally, in the other types of hydroponic farms, the roots are exposed to air and can obtain oxygen themselves. In the deep water culture farm, the roots are fully submerged in water and cannot absorb any oxygen due to the lack of air exposure. The benefit of this farm is its easy construction. You do not need to create a big piping system and can use much simpler materials for creating the farm. The downside is the maintenance. If anything breaks and the system stops, there's a high chance that the plants will die. On top of that, since the roots of the plants directly absorb oxygen and nutrients from the water, the pH or acidity level, water level, and nutrient concentration will fluctuate rapidly. The ebb and flow system is a very unique farm design. It is most similar to the nutrient film technique, but instead of a constant flow of water, the system will flood the roots of the plants and then drain the water back to the reservoir, almost like the tide in an ocean. This farm requires precise timing to ensure that the roots do not dry out or drown. If any timing is off, then the plants will die out. The benefit of this farm, though, is that water level regulation is much easier since you can wait until the reservoir is empty before you have to refill it. Unlike the other farms, the seeds that you are planning to grow require you to germinate them before you install them into the farm. A drip system is almost like a combination between the ebb and flow system and an NFT system. The system functions like an NFT system because it also has water that flows through the growing bed, pipes, and reservoir. The difference is that instead of water being delivered to the roots of the plants, it is instead dripped into the growing medium. Because the water solution is dripped directly into the medium, the system needs to turn itself on and off, kind of like the ebb and flow system. The only difference with the ebb and flow system is when the foam is on, there is a constant drip of nutrients instead of a flood of nutrients. To make this foam, you need to place the piping system next to or above the growing bed and attach emitters, or small little pipes that drip water down, to the pipes to drip water into the mediums. Emitters are just specialized hydroponic components that restrict water flow to a consistent drip. This type of foam is one of the most difficult to set up, but it is the easiest to maintain. Once all of the timers and emitters are made, all you have to do is consistently supply the foam with nutrient solution. However, since the drip foam uses such little water, the period of time between refilling the foam is increased heavily. The foam is not recommended for personal use due to its complex setup. Normally, drip foams are used in massive quantities by farmers to grow crops on a large scale. It should be noted that drip systems are also used in traditional farming too. Aeroponic foams are the most unique type of hydroponic foam. These foams place the roots of the plants out in the air, exposed to misters. Periodically, these misters will spray the roots with nutrient solution for the plants to absorb. The period of the misters should match up to the amount of time it takes for the roots to absorb the majority of the nutrient solution. Aeroponics is more similar to a drip system, but instead of dripping the solution into the mediums, the solution is sprayed onto the roots directly. It should be noted that mediums should still be used to support the stem of the plants. The downside to this foam is that you must germinate your plants before you can grow them. It is incredibly complicated to build these types of foams yourself, and it is also incredibly difficult to maintain this type of foam. I'd recommend not building this if you simply want to grow food at home. However, it would be pretty fun if you wanted to do it for a nice little science experiment. It costs on average $358.17 in the month of September 2025 to buy vegetables. Depending on how heavily you want to rely on hydroponic farming, you can reduce this number significantly. Initially, there will be an increase in the amount of money you will have to spend on your food, that being the money spent on building the hydroponic farm. But then, you'll have to spend less and less on groceries. The only caution I have is that if you live in areas with high electricity costs, you should keep your farm very low scale to avoid a drastic increase in electric bills. Hydroponic farms utilize less space than traditional farming due to their resilience in soil and their ability to have farm segments stacked on top of one another. Because hydroponic farming takes up much less space, less natural environments need to be terraformed. Also, hydroponics are much more efficient with their water and nutrient use compared to conventional farming. Because the system is closed, water is almost never lost while being absorbed by the roots of plants. If you want a more economical and sustainable way to source your food, or if you simply want to challenge yourself by making a unique creation, hydroponic farming should be worth your time. Thanks for watching.